I have a theory. I think when they kidnapped Nancy Guthrie, it was all about money. And then she dies and they freak out because they've committed murder. You kidnap somebody and they die as a result of the anguish and the fright. It's felony murder. Mark, we have received 2 emails today, Friday, when we're doing this, from a man who claims he knows where Nancy Guthrie's kidnappers are, who they are, and will lead authorities to them for the price of 1 Bitcoin. And I am going to lay out everything we know, the communications with the FBI, and I want to hear from you and everybody watching and listening. Is this guy a fraudster or the real deal? So let me tell you what we got today, early this morning. So this guy, he starts out by saying, I am not the idiot who recently called in a tip about her burial site in Mexico. Now, there were reports recently that somebody had said that they knew where she was in Mexico. He's saying, I'm not that guy. Although he did tell us earlier when she was supposedly still alive that they had taken her to Mexico. But here's where it gets...
Wait, so that people understand, is this somebody who had previously sent a note which you turned over to the FBI?
We've turned all the notes over to the FBI.
And is this one that the FBI gave some credence to? Not this particular one, but an earlier one?
Well, he's referring to somebody who made a statement that her body was buried in Mexico. I have no idea whether the FBI took it seriously. He's saying, it's not me. But this is what's interesting. He says only 2 are directly involved, and I doubt they would be the ones to call in and snitch on themselves. So I think that's really interesting because he has told us before, if you believe him, that there are multiple kidnappers, but a main guy. This is the first time he's given us a number where he says 2. So he says there are 2 kidnappers. And he's basically saying it wasn't me that made that comment that circulated recently about Mexico. And it certainly wasn't them, because why would they snitch on themselves? So that's kind of interesting.
When did this guy or this person first email or send you a note?
Days after we received the first ransom note.
Okay, so this is somebody who's been sending to you all along?
And at the beginning, almost every day. We've received at least a dozen of these from the same guy.
And you and I have talked about this before. You can do a pretty good triage on whether somebody is 5150 just on the basis of the notes they send you.
He's not 5150. He's either legit or a sophisticated fraudster. He's one of the 2. He's either legit or really sharp and knows how to defraud people. But there is nothing in these notes that make him seem off kilter in terms of his...
And you've got more experience than most. In fact, 98% of the population at being able to detect who's off kilter, to use your term.
So then this is where it gets really interesting. He says, I have a phone stashed in a secure location, guaranteeing both the information it stores and the safety of the phone. What it contains is my definition of delivering this on a silver platter. A short video of the main guy with Nancy the day that was probably her last. And then he says, in addition to that, the phone has the names and addresses of the kidnappers. So he is saying he has a video of Nancy because he had said earlier that he had seen Nancy with the kidnappers. That if you believe him, he has some close connection to the kidnappers. That's what he says. But he says he is not involved in the kidnapping and has repeated that over and over and over.
So without being cynical, the fact that he only wants 1 Bitcoin seems odd to me, number one. Number two, since this has started, Bitcoin has not exactly
Right.
skyrocketed in value.
It's about $60,000 now, a little less.
Yeah, and so has he changed the amount he's asked for over time?
Well, in a way, yes, because initially he had asked for what amounted to 100,000 in Bitcoin, and now he's asking for one, which is, like I said, just under $60,000. I agree with you. I mean, it's like if this guy is really now he says the reason he wants the money is because he has to go underground, and he gets more detailed here, but he's saying that he is basically on the run because these kidnappers appear to know that he has all this information and he's scared of them and he has to go underground. And he goes on in this letter, in this email, to say that he can see if the money is put into the Bitcoin address that he gives, but he will not access it until after the kidnappers are caught because he doesn't want to access it and then have it traced to him if the kidnappers are still on the loose. So
and I would assume that you, as a subsidiary of Fox, cannot pay for this information.
Well, I'll tell you. I called the FBI about a month ago,
Okay.
and I said, look, I may be really naive here, and I don't know, but I keep asking you guys, is this guy a kook? Is he a fraudster? And you tell me you don't know, but you also say you're really trying to track him down. And, it's like you're not dismissing it. And I just got this feeling it might be true. So what if we do a documentary and we actually pay the Bitcoin into the account to trigger this and follow where it leads us? And obviously we'll work with you. So this was about a month ago. And the first reaction I got was, well, that's kind of interesting. Let us run it up the flagpole. And I called them back a couple of days later, and they said, we're still talking about it. And then I kind of got ghosted for almost a month. And I called back a half dozen times, and they never returned my call. And I just figured, okay.
When you say they didn't return the call, the FBI. So have you responded? Is this an interactive relationship, or are you not able to respond to what he said?
I can't respond, but we respond in a different sort of way, and I'll tell you in a minute. But let me just say, a couple of days ago, the FBI did call me, and they said, well, look, they knew about what I had requested, and they said, look, we feel we're closer to finding this person. And they said this person might actually be a woman. And that's all they said. They didn't say why they thought that. But
that's interesting they said that, because if I was going to ask you if there was any indicia that this was a female.
He's using uses a man's name.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
No, I know.
Right.
But then they said on the documentary thing to stand down, that they were working on it. And I said, fine. And so because there were these stories that had come out this week that, the second ransom note said that Nancy had died, it seems like that's what triggered this guy into sending this.
We understand this person did not tell you that Nancy is dead?
Well, he is essentially, he told us that. I'm going to call him he just because that's what we've he told us this early on. At one point he said, essentially, time is of the essence. And then in a follow-up email said, time is no longer of the essence.
And how early or how long after?
A week.
Disappearance?
A week.
A week. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, he has essentially told us over time that she was dead. And again, we've been sending all of these to the FBI. And they have spent a lot of time with my IT team, a lot of time, and multiple FBI agents who have been trying to crack the code of both this guy's email and the first kidnapping note. They've spent a lot of time with our team. As far as I know, they were not able to crack it. I know that until a month ago, they certainly were not able to crack it. I don't know what they've
Is
done with this
this
guy.
is this guy the one that, remember when Savannah did that really tugs at your heartstrings, emotion laden,
Right.
please bring us back? And there was two interpretations. One was she wanted the remains, the other, are people who wanted to be positive or think positively were interpreting it differently. Is this guy the one that you believe was saying that she's already gone?
No, the reason that Savannah, that's a really important point. Um, there was the first ransom note said she was safe but scared. We received that, as did two Tucson television stations. The second note was only sent to one of the Tucson television stations. And what came out this week is in that second note, which was sent 5 or 6 days after the kidnapping, it said she was dead. And they were basically saying, we didn't do it. She died. And it was that second ransom note from the kidnappers. We know both notes were written by the same people because it was the same, it had the same Bitcoin address for the ransom. So it was that second note that said she was dead. And yes, that weekend, I believe it was Saturday night, is when Savannah came out with that really heart-wrenching statement where she said, bring us back, bring us to our mother so we can bring her home and celebrate. That felt to me back then like they knew she had died. When you say,
And I
bring her back
assume
so we can celebrate.
the Bitcoin address given by notes 1 and number two only going to one station, is a different Bitcoin address than the Bitcoin address in this note that we're talking about today.
Yeah, and the reason we know that this note today is the same as is written by the same person is that the last one we received before this one, the last one we received said, well, I'm not going to get in touch with you anymore. I'm going to deactivate the Bitcoin account. And we never published the Bitcoin address. So in this note, he says, I have a new Bitcoin address that you can send this money to. And then he references the old one just to show it's the same guy. And we never published that Bitcoin address, and it is the exact same one.
Have you published any of these notes?
We haven't published the notes in full. We've quoted from them.
Have you even shown anything indicia of it?
No, we've never shown any of the notes, but we've.
Or shouldn't we show a little bit of this?
Well, I mean, I've read a lot of this to you, and when he says, look, if you send me the Bitcoin, that I will let you know where this phone is, and it's in a safe location that's easily accessible if you are guided to it. To me, that feels like a safe deposit box. And he says that the phone is turned off, but I will lead you to that safe deposit box and give you the password so you can access the phone. So that's what he says. Now,
so if this guy is not, or woman is not, a fraudster, I think I said this to you once before, and I would, hopefully they're listening or hear it. Why don't they just go to a lawyer and have the lawyer work on a contingency to broker the information, which then keeps the anonymity of the client and allows the information to get wherever. You don't even have to rely on a Bitcoin. A lawyer can keep the money in a trust account pending the confirmation of the information or the phone or whatever else it is. I don't know why they make it so cloak and dagger when there seems to be a rather simple way to navigate this.
that's actually a really interesting idea. And he certainly hasn't raised it. And one of the reasons he might not want to do that is if he's a fraudster.
Right. And so that's what tends to lead me to believe that the person is a fraudster, because otherwise, go to a lawyer who's got attorney-client privilege with you, who has a trust account that you can receive whatever funds, and not have to disclose, meaning not have to disclose to the general public, so to speak, and then let the lawyer broker this deal so that you can then take that information and if you have some interest in getting this solved, that's the way to solve it.
Okay, I will double down with you on that and say there is more evidence he's a fraudster. And then after I tell you what that evidence is, then I'll tell you why he might not be a fraudster. So,
oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to get my fraudster whiplash going.
You are going to get you are going to get fraudster whiplash.
Let's first go towards doubling down on fraudster.
Okay, let's do that. So you had asked me earlier, is this one-way communication or are we able to communicate with him? We cannot send him emails or anything like that. That is a one-way street. That we don't have any ability to do that, never have. However, we have a website and we have television shows and we have social media. And on all of those, we have said things really directly to him. And I said something to him early today after getting this email. And I said, look, you could be an absolute scammer and show there's a reason the FBI and the Guthrie family hasn't paid you. So it's got to give them pause that whether you're the real deal or not. So what about this? Send us, and this is the way we've communicated with him. I put this on social media and on the website today. And I said, send us a screen grab from the video of Nancy Guthrie, something, just a screen grab that shows you the real deal. And we will immediately forward it to the FBI. And I would assume if they think it's real, they're going to pay the money. So a couple hours after we posted that, he sent another email saying, I'm not going to do that because the metadata will lead them directly to me, and I'm not going to take that chance. So that made me think, this guy's full of it.
Right, because, and once again, you could show it to a lawyer confidentially. The lawyer can take a look. The lawyer does not have to access the metadata, but the lawyer can then do a reverse proffer to the FBI or the authorities. The lawyer could also, if you're worried about being apprehended or if you're worried about your liability, so to speak, then they can do, if it turns out to be true and you're not a fraudster, they can work out some kind of an arrangement for you.
That's right. Okay. So that's
now,
my doubling down.
I know. What leads you to the other? Where's the whiplash on the other angle?
So I send these 2 emails today to the FBI, and they are saying, we're on it. We're on it.
Wow.
You know, it's like, stop sending us these stupid emails. And I'm not getting that. And so I'm just really confused. Why are they spending time on this guy if they don't believe that he might be legit? But on the other hand, if they think he even might be legit, why not roll the dice on 60 grand, which in the greater scheme of things, you know, it's not going to break the bank. But if they're spending this much time trying to figure out who he is, then roll the dice on this thing. Because the guy, there was a point, Mark, where, I don't know, a month in, I did a social media post, again, the only way we could contact this guy. And I just said, look, the FBI literally asked me to do this social post and say to you that if this is a scam, they will find you, they will charge you, they will prosecute you, and they will send you to prison. And they had actually asked me to say that, and I did. And he sent me an email back saying, I am well aware that anybody who pulls a scam like this can be prosecuted and sent to prison. I am not doing that. So look, I don't know, but I mean, if 0 to 100, 100 is he's telling the truth and 0 is no credibility. Where are you on the spectrum?
Right now, until you give me some other piece of information that I didn't have 8 minutes ago, I'm giving it about a 65%, a 65 out of 100.
Is that worth rolling? Is that worth rolling the dice?
Yeah, I think that is worth rolling the dice.
So you would roll the dice.
If I'm you and I've got a website like you've got, I would roll the dice.
Well, we will not do anything like that unless the FBI said, go ahead. Because I figured if they weren't, what skin is it off their teeth if we do this documentary and do it? But for whatever reason, they said, no, stand down. Why are they saying that?
How long ago did they tell you to stand down?
This week.
Okay, so
well, they had, when I first called them about the idea, they said, don't do anything yet. Let us run it up the flagpole.
Right, then you did the follow-up.
Right.
But have you asked them since this last one?
Yeah, when I was on the phone with them this week, and I mentioned it again, they said, no, stand down.
Okay, well, then that would lead me to believe that my 65 is a very confident 65, because that would lead me to believe that they think they've got something. If they thought this was a complete dead end, they wouldn't have told you to stand down.
Yeah, and we have never spoken with the Guthrie family on this. So, I mean, and you know,
this has got to be the most
heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching. It's a perfect word for it. Can you imagine your mom is gone, you don't know what's happened, and you've got every grifter in the world, and you've got it's just, I don't even know how to, it's inexplicable.
Well, and it's not just that. It's like with Savannah, you know, she's got a job that requires her, you know, to at times be joyful and at times, you know, just be inquisitive and to have all sorts of emotions, you know, depending on what she's doing, you know, during each, you know, multi-hour day of the Today Show. And what's underlying all of it is this pain that sometimes just seeps out, which it did this week, where she just broke down. And when she breaks down in the middle of it, you think, my God, this woman literally has to act every day. And it is true acting, you know, to be able to, you know, just bury that, you know, emotion. And it always just doesn't stay down.
Yeah, it's heart-wrenching. That's why I said, if you, where are you? You asked me. I'm at a solid 65.
I'm around there too. But to me, a 65 is roll the dice.
Right, I agree. Anything more than 50 is roll the dice.
So, I got a theory about this.
Wait, do I have all the information at this point that you have?
Most, I suppose. But, I mean, there were some things that they asked us not to say. But I got to...
when the things they asked you not to say would seem to support the idea that this person is legit, correct?
I can't say that. I can't say one way or the other. It's more about the kidnappers than it is about him, about this guy.
Really?
But as to the kidnappers, I have a theory. I think clearly these kidnappers wanted money, and that's all they wanted. And when they kidnapped Nancy Guthrie, I think their intention was, as soon as they got the money, release her. It was all about money. And then she dies on their watch, and they freak out and go radio silent because they've committed murder. It's felony murder. You kidnap somebody and they die as a result of the, you know, the anguish and the fright and the fact that she didn't have her meds and everything else. It's felony murder. So these guys thought they were doing a kidnapping, and then all of a sudden Nancy Guthrie dies and they realize, holy crap, we're going to be prosecuted for murder. And they go away, never to be seen again. They never ask for another ransom amount. They, in fact, in that second letter, they didn't ask for any specific amount. They just said, she's dead, we didn't do it. And so it feels like they just didn't want anything to do with it, including they didn't want to say where her body was because they thought it would lead the FBI to them and they'd be prosecuted for murder.
Okay, so I'm going to push on this theory a little bit. Do you think this is one of what we have heard about these cross-border kidnappings for money that is more common than you and I would know because we toggle between the coasts? Or do you think this targeted Nancy Guthrie because of who she was, as opposed to being related to Savannah? Or do you think it was randomly Nancy Guthrie because of the location of her house and that it seemed to be in a wealthy enclave? What's your theory there?
I think these kidnappers are based in the Tucson area, specifically the Tucson television market. They were contacting two local stations in Tucson. They didn't contact NBC News, which is where Savannah works. They contacted two local stations. I think these kidnappers either knew Nancy Guthrie, who would rightfully brag that her daughter is the anchor of the Today Show, Savannah, or they had heard it in town. Because in a way, Nancy Guthrie is a celebrity because her daughter is somebody that people in that market watch every single day. And so they knew Savannah Guthrie was Nancy's daughter. And they assume, and probably correctly, that not only is she famous, but rich, and they saw a payday, which to me bolsters the theory that this was, give us the money, we'll give her back to you, and we'll be set for the rest of our lives. And all of a sudden, she dies, and now they're murderers, and they just go radio silent.
And was one of the stations in Tucson that received the initial notes, one of those two, an NBC affiliate?
I don't remember whether it's NBC
I
or not.
thought one was a CBS. I just don't
It's
remember
KOLD and K-Gun, and I don't remember, but those are the two.
I think, okay, so then if that is the case, if this was a money grab and they knew who she was, I'm gonna 65% on that theory as well, frankly.
I'm higher than 65 on that.
On that theory?
I'm higher
That
than
you think they knew who she was, Nancy Guthrie, you think when they took her that they specifically knew she was Savannah's mother?
I'm 95% on that.
Okay. And by the way, for those who think this is ghoulish, and it is, but this is if you don't think the FBI has gone through this every which way as a Rubik's Cube or mental gymnastics, you're naive, because this is precisely what the investigative techniques are in terms of trying to figure out or profiling who it is or what it is.
And, and Mark, and I think that second ransom note, and again, we haven't seen it, but we now know the reporting on it, where and we do know this because one of the people from KOLD, the station that got that second note, had said publicly, not a lot publicly, but said that there was not a specific ransom demand in that second note. That's really interesting because in the first note, it is very specific, that the note we got, that $4 million until Friday, and if you don't pay us by Friday, it goes to $6 million, and if you don't pay it by Monday, we will kill her. So they're very specific and very money-oriented in this letter.
And then they specifically say dollars as opposed to Bitcoin?
It was dollars. It was dollars.
And it was round number 4 and then round number 6?
Correct. And in the second one, according to a reporter from KOLD, there was no mention of a ransom amount. So again, I think that when they sent the second, it was to say, hey, we're really sorry she died, but we didn't do it. She just died. And they went silent. So I think at that point, they could have said, if they wanted to, we'll lead you to her body if you give us X. They didn't do that. And that's why I think they just freaked out. And that they...
So you got note number 1, which was contemporaneous with the 2 to the local station, correct?
Right.
Okay. Then note number 2, which you believe she had already passed away, and they didn't make a number. You didn't get a note for note number 2.
Correct.
And this person who sent you up to a dozen communications doesn't surface until after note number 2?
No, no, surfaced after note number 1,
After note number
but
1
before
and
number
still
2. Before number.
and when they surfaced, did this person believe or indicate that she was still alive?
Initially, yes, and at a point early on said no. What they said was essentially time was of the essence at the beginning, and then and a subsequent note said time is no longer of the essence.
Have you done a timeline of this? So note number 1, obviously, they're asking for money. Presumably, she's alive. Note number 2, by the where you didn't get it, they believe if it's legit,
It's
that
a matter
she's not
of
alive.
it's like a matter of 4 or 5 days, Mark, between
Okay,
1 and 2.
and so it would appear because that that this person has some connection to whoever's sending notes number 1 and notes number 2, would it not? Because of that interconnection, because they knew at a certain point that something untoward had happened to her?
I'm sorry, you're saying there's a connection between note 1 and note 2?
No, I'm saying that the person, this is not the person who sent the first note or the second note.
The guy that's sending to us is somehow connected. He says he's connected. He says he's connected.
I know he says it, but I'm just trying to see if there is a way to
roughly
correlate the data.
It roughly fits on the timeline. There's a bit of a delay from the time the kidnappers told KOLD Nancy was dead and the time he told us that, but not by much.
If I'm analyzing it, when they're telling KOLD that Nancy is dead, that was not publicly known in real time. People were just speculating back and forth because of
that wasn't known until this week.
Correct. So what I'm saying is the person you're now communicating with and have for a dozen times
seem to know around the same time. Yeah.
Around the same time. So that would tend to say if this person is a fraudster, those two are probably fraudsters. But if this person is legit, that gives some legitimacy to the person, to the group or whoever it was that was sending notes 1 and 2 to you and KOLD.
Yeah. Now I will end with this, that I know the FBI believes that the person who sent or people who sent ransom notes 1 and 2 are one and the same, and they are the kidnappers. They absolutely believe they're the kidnappers.
If that's the case, then we'll end with this. I'm raising it from 65 to 80%. My confidence.
And then you just got to figure out, why haven't they paid? And I'm stuck.
Well, we'll read the comments. I'm sure we'll find some.
I'm sure they will have opinions.
I'm sure they'll have some. Thank you, Harvey.
Okay, Mark, you too.
Bye-bye.